There comes a moment in life when someone finally realizes what you truly meant to them, but by then your silence has already become louder than your presence. And the cruelest part is this: people rarely understand the value of a soul while they still have access to it. Maybe you've lived this before. Maybe you were the person who stayed longer than you should have, who forgave too much, who answered every late-night call, who carried the emotional weight of someone who only noticed your worth after your absence carved a hole into their life. Human beings have a strange relationship with love. We assume the people who care deeply will always remain there. We mistake loyalty for permanence. And because of that, many people do not wake up to your importance while you are beside them. They wake up in the echo that comes after you leave. Carl Jung once said, "People do not realize how much of their life is unconscious. And sometimes love is unconscious too. People don't understand what you meant to them until the routines disappear, until your messages stop arriving, until another difficult day comes and they instinctively reach for someone who no longer answers." This video is not about revenge. It is about the terrifying moment someone finally sees your value, when it is too late to return to the version of you that once waited for them. And if you stay until the end, you may realize something even deeper. Sometimes losing you was the lesson they were always destined to learn. Part 1. They only understand your value in your absence. There is a painful truth about human nature that nobody likes to admit. Familiarity blinds people. The more consistently you love someone, the more they begin to see your presence as ordinary instead of sacred. When you were there every day, checking on them, listening to them, calming their storms, forgiving their emotional distance, they thought that was simply who you were. They never stopped to ask how much energy it took for you to keep showing up with love in your hands while your own heart slowly grew tired. And this is why absence becomes such a brutal teacher, because when you disappear, your role in their emotional life suddenly becomes visible. The good morning text they ignored becomes silence. The emotional support they took for granted becomes loneliness. The safe place they once had becomes an emptiness they cannot replace. Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "Invisible threads are the strongest ties," and people rarely notice those invisible threads until they snap. Think about modern life for a moment. People scroll endlessly through temporary distractions, believing connection is abundant. Social media convinces us everyone is replaceable. One swipe, one new conversation, one new face. But emotional safety cannot be duplicated like content on a screen. A person may meet many people after you, but none of them carry your exact patience, your exact understanding, your exact emotional fingerprints. And eventually, reality confronts them quietly, usually at night, usually during moments of pain, usually when life humbles them enough to recognize who genuinely stood beside them before the world became difficult. That is the moment your absence transforms into revelation, not because you were perfect, but because your love was real. And real things are rare in a world addicted to performance. The tragedy is that many people only awaken emotionally after losing what truly nourished their soul. Like someone dying of thirst while standing beside a well they never appreciated. And perhaps this is why some people return years later carrying regret in their eyes, because time finally showed them the emotional gravity of your presence. But by then, you are no longer the same person they once neglected. You have learned the hardest lesson of all. Love should not have to disappear to be valued. Part 2. Why memory becomes their punishment. There is something deeply psychological about regret. At first, when someone loses you, they may appear unaffected. Pride protects them. Ego distracts them. New conversations, busy schedules, temporary pleasures, all of it acts like emotional anesthesia. They convince themselves they are fine, but the human mind has a dangerous habit. It replays truth in silence, and silence always arrives eventually. This is when memory becomes their punishment, not because you curse them, not because karma suddenly appeared like lightning from the sky, but because the mind begins connecting emotional dots that the ego once ignored. Carl Jung believed that what we refuse to confront consciously returns to us in different forms. And this is exactly what happens after someone loses a person who genuinely loved them. At random moments, your memory begins resurfacing. A song, a place, a late-night drive, a difficult day at work, a moment where nobody understands them the way you once did. And suddenly, they remember your patience, your softness, your effort, the little things they dismissed while searching for something better. This is why regret is rarely immediate. Human beings are emotionally delayed creatures. Many people only understand love through comparison. They step into new connections expecting the same depth, only to realize how uncommon emotional sincerity really was. And this realization hits hardest when life becomes painful, because pain exposes who truly stood beside us. Think about it carefully. When someone is surrounded by excitement, attention, validation, and distractions, they often overlook genuine love. But when life humbles them, when anxiety appears, when loneliness deepens, when betrayal wounds them, suddenly they remember the person who once gave them peace without asking for anything in return. That memory begins eating at them quietly, especially when they realize they were loved during a version of themselves that was difficult to love. That realization destroys people internally, because deep down, every human being fears one terrifying possibility. What if I lost the one person who truly saw me? The philosopher Blaise Pascal once wrote, "The heart has its reasons, which reason knows nothing of." And memory operates the same way. Logic cannot erase emotional truth. A person may intellectually justify losing you, but emotionally their soul continues searching for what it once felt with you. This is why some people revisit old messages, why they stalk social media silently, why they wonder if you found someone else, why your absence lingers inside their mind long after the relationship ends. Not every loss creates regret, but losing someone who genuinely loved you creates a psychological echo that follows people for years, because authentic love leaves fingerprints on the soul. And once someone experiences real emotional safety, every superficial connection afterward feels emotionally incomplete. But here is the deeper truth most people never talk about. Sometimes the memory of you becomes the mirror that forces them to confront who they were, how selfish they acted, how emotionally unavailable they were, how they wounded someone who only wanted to love them sincerely. And for many people, that realization arrives too late, because while they were busy learning your worth, you were busy learning your own. Part 3. People often return when you no longer need them. There is a strange irony hidden inside human relationships. When you were emotionally available, they hesitated. When you waited, they delayed. When you offered your heart openly, they treated your love like something that would always remain within reach. But the moment you begin healing, the moment your energy detaches from them, something shifts psychologically inside their mind. Because people can feel absence emotionally long before they understand it logically. At first, they believed your love was permanent. They assumed no matter how distant they became, you would continue orbiting around them emotionally. And this assumption made them careless. But healing changes your energy. You stop checking your phone every hour. You stop building imaginary conversations in your head. You stop needing closure from someone incapable of giving it. And slowly, your emotional dependency dies. That is when they begin feeling the loss fully. The philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." And nothing transforms a person more powerfully than finally releasing attachment to someone who undervalued them. Because once you stop begging for love, your presence changes. There is a calmness that appears in people who have suffered enough, a quiet dignity, a silent strength. And ironically, this is often when the person who hurt you suddenly becomes emotionally curious again. Why? Because human beings are psychologically drawn toward what no longer seeks them desperately. Your distance forces them to confront something uncomfortable. You are capable of living without them. That realization shakes people deeply, especially if they once believed your loyalty guaranteed their permanent place in your life. Modern relationships are filled with this tragic pattern. People confuse attention with value. They think the person constantly texting, checking in, forgiving, and trying harder will remain forever. But they fail to understand something essential. Even the deepest love can exhaust itself when it is not reciprocated. And once that exhaustion turns into acceptance, the emotional dynamic changes permanently. This is usually when they begin reaching back toward you. Not always because they changed completely. Sometimes because your absence wounded their ego. Sometimes because loneliness finally humbled them. Sometimes because they met people who mirrored their own emotional inconsistency back to them. Life has a brutal way of teaching empathy through experience, and suddenly they understand the pain they once caused you. But here is where your transformation becomes important, because the healed version of you no longer responds from desperation. You begin seeing clearly. You realize how much of your suffering came from hoping someone would become emotionally ready before you emotionally broke yourself trying to save them. Carl Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And many people mistake emotional patterns for destiny. They keep returning to the same wounds, hoping for different outcomes. But growth means recognizing when love has become self-abandonment. It means understanding that your worth was never dependent on whether someone recognized it in time. And this is the moment everything changes, when the person who once overlooked you finally sees your value, but discovers you no longer measure your value through their approval. That realization is devastating for them, because they expected your heart to remain waiting exactly where they left it. But life does not pause for delayed realizations. People evolve. Pain transforms them. And sometimes by the time someone finally understands what you truly meant to them, you have already become someone they can no longer reach in the same way again. Part 4. Sometimes losing you was the lesson they needed. There is a painful truth hidden inside many human relationships. Not everyone is emotionally mature enough to recognize real love while they are receiving it. Some people only awaken through loss. Not because they are evil, not because they never cared, but because unconscious people often learn too late. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once wrote, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." And perhaps that is why so many people fail to understand the significance of a relationship until it becomes a memory instead of a reality. When someone loses a person who genuinely loved them, something profound begins happening beneath the surface. The ego slowly cracks. The distractions stop working. And for the first time, they are forced to sit alone with themselves. No validation, no emotional safety net, no person absorbing their chaos while asking for almost nothing in return. Just silence. And silence reveals truth. This is where many people finally understand what you truly meant to them. You were not just another relationship. You were emotional shelter. You were peace during their internal wars. You were the rare soul who loved them beyond convenience, beyond performance, beyond temporary excitement. But human beings often misunderstand calm love, because calm love does not intoxicate the ego the way chaos does. It feels safe, stable, gentle, and immature people mistake stability for boredom, until life wounds them enough to crave the very peace they once abandoned. This is why some people spend years searching for what they already had with you. Different faces, different conversations, different relationships. Yet something always feels missing. Because depth cannot be replaced by novelty. And eventually, many people arrive at the same heartbreaking realization. They did not lose just another person. They lost someone who loved them with sincerity, someone who saw beauty inside them, even during seasons where they could not see beauty within themselves. And that realization changes people forever. But here is the deeper lesson hidden beneath all this pain. Their awakening was never supposed to destroy you. It was supposed to transform you too. Because while they were learning your value through loss, you were learning your value through survival. You began understanding that your love was never weak simply because it was unappreciated. A flower does not become worthless because someone failed to water it. And one of the most powerful moments in life is realizing you no longer need revenge, validation, or closure from the people who underestimated your heart. Why? Because your healing itself becomes closure. Your peace becomes closure. Your emotional freedom becomes closure. Buddha once said, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And eventually, mature souls understand this deeply. The goal is not making someone suffer for losing you. The goal is becoming someone who no longer suffers, trying to prove their worth to people incapable of recognizing it. And perhaps this is the final irony of human connection. Sometimes people understand your importance only after losing access to you. But by then, your soul has already outgrown the version of you that once begged to be chosen. So if someone failed to recognize your value while they had you, do not let that convince you that you are hard to love. Some people arrive in our lives not to stay forever, but to teach us the painful difference between being wanted temporarily and being valued deeply. And maybe the greatest victory is this: not that they finally realized your worth, but that you finally did too. If this video spoke to something silent inside your heart, remember this: never measure your worth by how long it took someone else to recognize it. Some people awaken through love, others awaken through loss. But your purpose was never to shrink yourself waiting for someone's emotional maturity to arrive. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away with love still in your heart and peace still in your soul. And one day, somewhere in the quiet corners of their life, they will remember you, not because you were perfect, but because you were real.